Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, amma ba'd. Inshallah, we continue our study on the 10 nullifiers of Islam, and today we're picking up on the second nullifier. So go ahead and read. Bismillah.
Did you still want to read?
Wait, I'll take over, no worries.
Yeah, just go ahead.
The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, الثاني, the second nullifier, من جعل بينه وبين الله وسائط يدعوهم ويسألهم الشفاعة ويتوكل عليهم كفر إجماعا. So this is the second nullifier, which we're touching on today. He says, it is whoever makes intermediaries, yani middlemen, between him and Allah, supplicating to them, yani making dua to them, asking them for intercession, and depending upon them, then he has disbelieved by consensus. Ijma'an. This nullifier, as many of you can remember, is one that we touched upon in Qawaid-Al-Arba'a, in the four principles. All right, it's one which the mushrikeen of Quraysh fell into when they placed between themselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala idols. Right, they placed between themselves and Allah intermediaries. Even though, as we mentioned, they had Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. In other words, they still believed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one that created them. Okay, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned to us in Surah Zumar that the Quraysh or those kuffar at that time would say, "Ma na'buduhum," we do not worship them, "illa liyuqarribuna ila Allahi zulfa," except that we get close to Allah through them. It's not them that we seek, but we're just placing them in between us and Allah. So they made it clear they did not worship those intermediaries with the belief that they are the Rabb, that they are the creator or provider. But they only took them as intermediaries or intercessors. And that was enough for them to be declared as disbelievers. Therefore, their shirk was in which tawheed? It was in uluhiyya, in the ibadah, in the worship. All right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also said in Surah Yunus, He says, وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And they worship other than Allah, that which neither harms them nor benefits them. And they say, these are our intercessors with Allah. Okay, so that's proof that they took them as not just intermediaries, but also as intercessors. And للأسف, okay, unfortunately, this is one of the nullifiers that many people today who claim to be upon Islam, they fall into due to placing between themselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala middlemen in worship. All right. The only difference between those today and those of the past and in the Quraysh is that those today, they claim to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They claim Islam, even though they are the furthest away from that, from the guidance. All right. And even though this is the shirk that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came to warn his people about. This is the one that they were involved in, engaged in. Yeah, we still find people doing this today. All right. But what I want to do is I want to give you all a couple of reasons why people would commit shirk. Okay. Sometimes we think about it and we say to ourselves, why would they do something like this? What are the reasons that people have, or what are the excuses that people have for committing or doing these crimes that they fall into? Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great scholars of Islam, he states that there are four reasons. Okay, there are four reasons. And those four reasons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions them in the Quran, and He destroys that excuse, all four excuses. All right, the arguments of the polytheists, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses it. What are those four reasons? The first reason that a person would fall into shirk is because they believe that thing that they're worshipping is in absolute control of the universe, that it is God. Okay, they believe it has full control. Let's say that this person now does not believe that. What is the second reason? The second reason, okay, if this thing that they're worshiping does not have full control, then they believe it has a share in the control with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It acts as Allah's partner. This is the second reasoning. The third reasoning, if a person doesn't believe even that, is that, well, maybe they believe that this thing they're worshiping is a helper of Allah, not an equal with Allah. He doesn't share in the control with Allah, but he is a helper, okay, an assistant, even though Allah does not require any help. Let's say they don't even believe that. Then what is Afwan, if we can have the mics muted. The fourth reason would be that if they don't even believe that, then it is because they believe this idol or this deity or this God they're worshiping is something that can act as an intercessor, get them close to Allah. All right. These are the four reasons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses all of them in Surah As-Saba. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلِ ادْعُوا الَّذِينَ زَعَمْتُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ لا يملكون مثقال ذرة في السماوات ولا في الأرض. Say, O Prophet, all upon those you claim besides Allah, they do not possess even an atom's weight either in the heavens or the earth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the first part of the verse destroys the notion or the argument of the mushrikeen that there is someone other than Allah controlling all of this. Then he says, وَمَا لَهُمْ فِيهِمَا مِنْ شِرْكٍ وَمَا لَهُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ ظَهِيرٍ. Okay, nor do they have any share in governing. That's the second argument. So Allah destroys the argument that these deities have a share in control with Allah. All right. Then he says, وَمَا لَهُ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ ظَهِيرٍ. Nor is any of them a helper to him. That's the third argument. And then he says, وَلَا تَنْفَعُ الشَّفَاعَةُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا لِمَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ. Nor is intercession accepted or beneficial for any of them except by his permission. Okay, so that is the answer to the fourth.
Wordy stuff. I think that was hers.
Afwan, you guys, we can hear you all. Please mute. All right, so this naqid is what people of the fourth category fall in. So their belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the creator and the sustainer, being one who gives life and death alone, it does not make them muwahhideen muslimin. It doesn't make them people of Tawheed or Islam, but rather due to their shirk in uluhiyya, worshipping other than Allah by placing in between themselves and Allah middlemen, they were still declared to be as disbelievers. Jameel, we'll move on to the next naqid now. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, الثالث. Okay, الثالث. He says, من لم يكفر المشركين أو شك في كفرهم أو صحح مذهبهم كفر. The third, whoever does not hold the polytheists to be disbelievers, or has doubts about their disbelief, or considers their ways and beliefs to be correct, has committed disbelief. All right, this is a very important nullifier. So all those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He declares their disbelief, He lists them to be disbelievers, whether they are from Ahlul Kitab, yani the Yahud and Nasara, or they are mushrikeen in general, or they are atheists, for example, or the people who committed apostasy, yani they left the deen, the religion. then these people, we must believe that they are disbelievers. We must believe that they are, in fact, disbelievers. Okay, you cannot have tawheed if you do not take the stance or the belief or do not make kufr of the kuffar. Okay, you do not declare the disbelief of the kuffar. Why is that? At-tawheed, you guys, is comprised of two main essential parts. Okay, tawheed, the kalima, the statement, La ilaha illallah, is made up of two parts. First and foremost, it is made up of what we call al-kufr bit-taghut, disbelief in the false deities, in the false gods. And the second part of La ilaha illallah is what we call al-imanu billah, belief in Allah. Okay? So the meaning of La ilaha illallah, when you're saying there is none worthy of worship except Allah, you're doing these two things. Number one, you're rejecting everything out there that is worshipped besides Allah. Okay? Every system and ideology and religion and every false god, you're disbelieving in it. This is what we call by al-kufr bit-taghut. The second part of La ilaha illallah is when you say illallah, meaning you are affirming the right of worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Al-imanu billah. Al-imanu billah. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions for us in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. Whoever rejects false gods and believes in Allah has certainly grasped the firmest handhold. Okay? Whoever disbelieves in the false gods and then believes in Allah. So both things are mentioned there. Okay? So from this, what are we learning? That it is a must to hold the mushrikeen to be kuffar, or the people of the book to be kuffar, and anyone who refrains, anyone who does not see it that way, or anyone who has doubt, shak, or anyone who approves of their religions and ways of life and does not see them as kuffar, then he himself or she himself has disbelieved as a result of that. Okay, as a result of that, they themselves have disbelieved. And this is a ijma', consensus amongst the Muslims. So it's not appropriate to hold a belief such as this, or to hold back from declaring these open non-Muslims as being non-Muslims. Okay, so this naqd is especially important, and one in which many people went astray in understanding. However, I want to mention a very important point as well, and that is that this naqid, this nullifier, is in reference to those kuffar who are asliyin, yani the kafir who is the original kafir, meaning someone who actually follows a religion other than Islam. Okay, yani for you to see a Nasrani or a Yahudi and you say, I'm not sure if they are kafir, you have that shak. This is a very serious problem. Okay, there's a very serious problem. We're talking about actual people of other religions. What about the situation of a Muslim now? Someone who's Muslim and they commit kufr, they fall into disbelief. And then I see that and I refrain from labeling them. Now, do I become a disbeliever because of that? No. Okay, why? Because I may have reasons for holding back. Maybe that person, he didn't know what he was doing. Or maybe that person, he was forced to do that. Maybe that person, he misunderstood something from the Sharia. Okay? Maybe that person had a slip of the tongue. He said something by mistake. He didn't mean it. Okay? We're not talking about the Muslim who commits kufr here. Here we're talking about those who are originally already upon kufr. Okay? And if someone were to hold back and see otherwise, then that is where this person falls into this naqid. Okay? So it is a must that along with your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you also reject and disbelieve in all else other than him, all else other than Islam. And this is also what we find in the Sahih of Imam Muslim, from the hadith of Abu Malik radiallahu anhu, who said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, "Man qala la ilaha illallah wa kafara bima yu'badu min duni Allahi haruma maluhu wa damuhu wa hisabuhu ala Allah." Okay, anyone who says la ilaha illallah, and he does what? Kufr. He denies, he rejects everything that the people worship other than Allah, then his property, his blood are all protected, and his affairs rest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In summary, okay, we'll end with this shortly. In summary, to give a quick summation of this last naqid, the third one, we can break up what we've discussed here on this nullifier into a few categories. Okay, regarding the one who doesn't label or doesn't make takfir, as we say, of the disbeliever. Okay, a person will fall into one of 5 categories. The first category is in relation to those who are original kuffar, like the Jew or the Christian or the Buddhist or the atheist, these people who are clearly upon a different religion. If a Muslim holds back from believing that this person is a disbeliever, then they have themselves become a disbeliever. Why? Because this person is now rejecting that which is clear from the Quran and Sunnah. The second category is when someone who's a Muslim converts to a different religion, leaves Islam and goes to a different religion. He goes to become a Christian, for example. Well, now this person is clearly on a new religion. So if we see them to be Muslim still, or not kuffar, then you or I or whoever else who refrains becomes a disbeliever as well. Why? Because this person has clearly left the deen. Okay? Similar to the first category. The third category is when someone commits a nullifier which the entire ummah agrees on. Someone commits a nullifier which the entire ummah, they agree on. And then this person is taken in front of the scholar or the judge, and all of the conditions apply. There's no excuse for this person. This person also disbelieves, and if we don't see it otherwise, or if we see it otherwise, then this is where this nullifier applies as well. Okay? The fourth category is just like the third, similar to the third. There is a nullifier that a Muslim falls into, and this nullifier is agreed upon amongst the ummah. However, I believe that the conditions have not been met. Maybe that person has an excuse, and so I refrain. I do not see them as disbelievers. I see them maybe as Muslims still. Well, here, I do not disbelieve. Why? Because I believe that the conditions have not been met yet. And lastly, the fifth category is when someone commits a naqid, a nullifier, which the ummah disagrees on. They disagree on. For example, when it comes to the one who abandons the salah, this is something that some scholars, they say it is kufr. Other scholars, they say it is not. So what happens when someone abandons the prayer? Some people will see this as disbelief. Others will not see it as disbelief. So I will hold back. I will refrain because I take the view that it is not disbelief. So do I disbelieve as a result of that? No. Why? Because the issue at hand is disagreed upon between the ummah to begin with. All right. Now there may be a few other categories that some scholars they add, but we'll suffice with this, inshallah ta'ala. That way, we do not take on too much for today, inshallah. All right. نكتفي بهذا القدر إن شاء الله. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خير.